Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The text message glowed on my phone screen like a neon sign advertising my own humiliation. Do not call me while I am on vacation with my ex. Do not embarrass yourself. My name is Jordan Carter, and I am a mechanical engineer who runs a custom fabrication shop in downtown Boston. 38 years old. Married for 6 years to a woman I thought I knew. Turns out I did not. I stared at that message for a solid 10 minutes, sitting in my truck outside our apartment building on Beacon Street. The irony was not lost on me. Brianna had sent this while I was supposedly 3 states away on a business trip. The trip I had canceled at the last minute because my client got food poisoning. The apartment felt different when I walked in. Not just empty, violated. Her wine glass sat on the granite counter, lipstick stains still fresh. Brianna never drank alone. She was too image-conscious for that, always worried about appearing perfect to her tech marketing crowd. I found the evidence quickly because she had not expected me home. A receipt from Romano's, our anniversary restaurant, dated 2 nights ago. A man's earring on the nightstand, expensive looking. And the real kicker, her laptop still open to a private social media account I had never seen. Photographs of her with a man named Lorenzo King. I knew that name from her work stories. Some hotshot angel investor who threw money at startups and expected favors in return. In the photographs, he was wearing my Harvard t-shirt, the one I had bought during our first trip together. My hand shook as I scrolled through months of secret posts. Vacation photographs from places she had claimed were work conferences, intimate dinners during her supposed girls' nights, comments from her friends, Lisa and Gina and others, encouraging her to follow her heart and do what makes you happy. The last post was from yesterday. A selfie of them in bed, her engagement ring prominently displayed with the caption, "Some secrets are worth keeping." I captured everything before she could delete it. Then I sat in my leather recliner, the one she always hated and called bachelor furniture, and planned my next move. Brianna would not be back until Sunday. That gave me 3 days to prepare. I started with the practical stuff. I changed the locks, transferred our joint savings to my personal account, and called my lawyer. Everything legal, everything documented. But that was not enough. Not nearly enough. By the time she returned, I had installed security cameras throughout the apartment, hidden, but legally placed since I owned the property. I had also made some interesting discoveries about Lorenzo King, thanks to my shop foreman Terrence's cousin who worked valet at the Ritz. Turns out Mr. Angel Investor had a pattern. 3 other married women in the past 2 years, all connected to companies he had invested in, all discarded when he got bored. The cousin had photographs, stories, even a few recorded conversations from the car rides. Sunday evening, I heard Brianna's key in the lock, then the frustrated rattling when it did not work. I waited exactly 30 seconds before opening the door. "Surprise," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "How was your girl's trip?" She looked genuinely shocked. Suitcase in one hand, phone in the other. Her tan was real, her hair professionally styled. She had spent money, our money, making herself beautiful for him. "Jordan, I thought you were in Philadelphia until Tuesday." Plans changed. Like yours, apparently. I stepped aside to let her in, watching her face carefully. "How are Lisa and Erica and all the other women you definitely went to Miami with?" Her poker face was decent, but I knew her tells. The slight twitch of her left eye when she lied. The way she touched her necklace when nervous. "I do not know what you mean. We had a great time. Very relaxing." "I bet Romano's is relaxing, especially when you were wearing someone else's jewelry." That got her. Her hand flew to the new necklace. A delicate gold chain I had never seen before. "This old thing. I have had it forever." "Funny. It was not in your jewelry box last week when I was looking for my cufflinks." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, she set down her suitcase and crossed her arms. "What is this really about, Jordan?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen capture of her post. Her face went white. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "No," I replied, pocketing the phone. "We really do not." Monday morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. My shop, Carter Custom Fabrication, occupied a converted warehouse in South Boston. 15 employees, mostly people who had grown up working with their hands like me. Good people who understood loyalty. Terrence Lewis, my foreman, found me in the office around 10. He is built like a linebacker, but moves with surprising grace around delicate machinery. Been with me since I started the business 8 years ago. Boss, you look like hell. Everything okay at home? I told him everything. Terrence listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. Man, I'm sorry. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure she understands the consequences of her choices. Terrence grinned, and it was not a pleasant expression. Need any help with that understanding? Maybe. Your cousin's still working at the Ritz. Yeah. Caleb. What? I might need some information about Lorenzo King, his habits, his schedule, who he meets with. Consider it done. That afternoon, I got a call from Mrs. Evelyn Brooks, the elderly woman who lived in the apartment below ours. She had always been friendly, the kind of neighbor who noticed everything. Jordan, dear, I hope you do not mind me calling. I want to tell you how sorry I am. Sorry about what, Mrs. Brooks? About your wife's gentleman friend. I saw them in the parking garage last week. Very inappropriate behavior for a married woman. My grip tightened on the phone. What did you see exactly? They were in his fancy car. A red one, very expensive looking. She was not acting like a married woman should. I took pictures because I thought maybe it was someone breaking into cars, but then I recognized her. Mrs. Brooks had photographs, clear ones with timestamps showing Brianna and Lorenzo in various stages of undress in his Ferrari. She had been documenting what she thought was criminal activity and accidentally created a perfect record of adultery. Would you be willing to share these photographs if needed? Of course, dear. I never liked that woman anyway. Too fancy for her own good. Tuesday evening, Brianna tried to act normal. She cooked dinner, something she rarely did, and attempted conversation about our respective days. I played along, asking about her work, her friends, her plans for the weekend. Actually, she said, pushing food around her plate, I was thinking we should talk about us, about our marriage. What about it? I think we have grown apart. Maybe we should consider separation, just temporarily, to figure things out. I set down my fork and studied her face. She had rehearsed this speech, probably with Lisa or one of her other enablers. Interesting timing, I said, right after your vacation. The vacation gave me perspective. Sometimes you need distance to see clearly. Distance, right? I stood up, collecting my plate. I agree completely. In fact, I think you should have all the distance you need. What do you mean? I mean, you should go stay with Lisa or Gina, or better yet, with Lorenzo. I am sure he has room. Her face flushed red. I do not know what you think you know. I know everything, Brianna. Every lie, every secret meetup, every post on your hidden account. I know about Romano's, about the necklace, about the 3 other married women he chased in the past 2 years. She stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. You went through my private accounts? That is a violation of my privacy. Your privacy? I laughed, and it sounded harsh, even to my own ears. You posted photographs of yourself sleeping with another man in my t-shirt, and you were worried about privacy? It is not what you think. It is exactly what I think. The question is, what are we going to do about it? She started crying then, the kind of calculated tears she used when she wanted something. Jordan, please. It was a mistake. I love you. We can work through this. No, I said quietly. We cannot. But do not worry about being embarrassed. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who you really are. Wednesday night, I was working late in my shop when I heard the loading dock door rattle. I looked up from the blueprint I had been studying to see a figure silhouetted against the security light. Lorenzo King stepped into my workspace like he owned it. Tall, perfectly styled hair, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences for his actions. Jordan Carter, I presume. Mr. King, you are trespassing. He smiled, showing teeth too white to be natural. I think we need to have a conversation. Man to man. About what? About your wife. About your marriage. About the fact that you are making things unnecessarily complicated. I set down my pencil and stood up slowly. Complicated. How Brianna wants a divorce. You should give it to her quietly, without drama. It is better for everyone involved. Everyone meaning you. Everyone meaning all of us. Look, I get it. Your pride is hurt, but holding on to something that is already over just makes you look pathetic. I walked around my workbench, closing the distance between us. Pathetic. That is an interesting word choice. I'm trying to be reasonable here. Brianna has made her choice. She is moving on. You should too. And if I do not? His smile turned cold. Then things might get unpleasant for you. Professionally speaking. Are you threatening me? I am offering you friendly advice. I have connections in this city. Investors, city council members, people who make decisions about zoning and permits. It would be unfortunate if your business faced unnecessary scrutiny. I stopped about 3 feet away from him, close enough to see the calculation in his eyes. You know what is funny, Lorenzo? Can I call you Lorenzo? Sure. You came into my shop at night to threaten my livelihood because you want to keep sleeping with my wife without complications. And you think I am the one who is pathetic. His confidence wavered slightly. I'm just trying to make this easier. No, you're trying to intimidate me. But here's the thing about men like you. You have never actually been in a real fight. You have never had someone push back who was not afraid of your money or your connections. I took another step closer. I work with my hands, Lorenzo. I build things, heavy things, with tools that could turn your pretty face into abstract art. Are you threatening me? I am offering you friendly advice. Stay away from my wife. Stay away from my business. And stay the hell out of my shop. He tried to maintain his composure, but I could see sweat forming on his forehead. This is not over. You are right. It is not. But when it is, you're going to wish you had made different choices. After he left, I called Terrence. I need that information about King. Everything your cousin has. Already on it, boss. Caleb has been documenting this guy for months. Apparently, he is not just a cheater. He has been skimming money from his investment fund. Caleb has recordings of phone calls, photographs of meetings, the whole 9 yards. Perfect. And Terrence, I'm going to need your help with something else. Name it. We're going to throw a party. Friday afternoon, I sent out invitations to what I called an engagement party. Not for a wedding, for my business. Carter Custom Fabrication had just landed a major contract with the city for decorative metal work in the new downtown park. It was worth celebrating, and I wanted to share the success with everyone who had supported me over the years. The venue was the ballroom at the Marriott downtown. I had booked it months ago for a company holiday party that never happened. Now it would serve a different purpose. I invited everyone, my employees and their families, our clients, suppliers, neighbors from the building, even Mrs. Brooks. I also made sure word got out through the business community. In a city like Boston, success stories spread fast. What I did not do was invite Brianna or tell her about it. Saturday evening, I stood in the ballroom watching people arrive. The room looked good, elegant, but not pretentious. A projector screen at one end for the presentation about our new contract. An open bar, because people are more honest when they are relaxed. Terrence found me near the entrance, looking sharp in a suit I had never seen him wear. Caleb came through. He said quietly, "Everything is ready." "Good. Is our guest of honor here yet?" "Just pulled up. Red Ferrari, just like Mrs. Brooks described." I watched through the lobby windows as Lorenzo got out of his car and handed the keys to the valet. He was dressed for a different kind of party. Tuxedo, gold watch, the works. Behind him, Brianna emerged from the passenger side wearing a black dress I had never seen and jewelry that definitely was not from our anniversary collection. They walked into the lobby like they owned it. Brianna's arm linked through his. She saw me through the ballroom doorway and froze. "Jordan, what is this?" "It is a party to celebrate the new city contract. You did not invite me to your own celebration. I figured you were busy with your gentleman friend." Lorenzo stepped forward, his hand possessive on Brianna's back. "We do not want any trouble. Neither do I. You are welcome to stay. Enjoy the food and drinks. Just remember, this is my party with my friends and colleagues. Act accordingly." The evening progressed smoothly for the first hour. I worked the room, thanking people for their support, talking about the future of the business. Brianna and Lorenzo stayed near the bar, drawing curious glances, but keeping to themselves. Around 8:30, I stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming tonight. This contract represents not just business success, but the power of community support. The people in this room have stood by me through challenges, celebrated victories, and helped build something lasting." Scattered applause. I could see Brianna watching nervously from across the room. "Tonight, I want to talk about loyalty, about the difference between people who stand with you and people who stand behind you only when it is convenient." The room grew quieter. Terrence moved closer to the projection controls. "Some of you know I've been going through personal difficulties lately. My wife has decided our marriage is not worth fighting for. She has chosen to pursue other interests. Brianna's face went pale. She started moving toward the exit, but Lorenzo caught her arm, probably not wanting to cause a scene by leaving. Now, I could be bitter about this. I could make accusations or air dirty laundry, but instead I want to show you something that illustrates the importance of choosing your associates carefully. I nodded to Terrence. The projector screen lit up with a photograph of Lorenzo King shaking hands with Councilman Gerald Price. This is Lorenzo King, an angel investor who has been very interested in my wife lately. Mr. King has been telling potential investors that he has inside connections with city officials. What he has not told them is that those connections involve bribes. The next slide showed bank records, King paying Price for inside information on city contracts. Caleb Lewis, who works valet at the Ritz, has been documenting Mr. King's activities for months. Turns out when you are drunk and think you are talking to the help, you say interesting things. Lorenzo was pushing through the crowd now, trying to reach the projector, but my employees blocked his path. Not aggressively, just by standing in the way. These recordings were turned over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation yesterday, along with evidence of securities fraud, tax evasion, and investor manipulation. The final slide was a photograph of Brianna and Lorenzo in his Ferrari, taken by Mrs. Brooks. As for my wife, she has made her choice. I respect that choice. I also respect the choice made by everyone in this room who values honesty and loyalty. Brianna was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Several of her friends from the tech community were in the audience, looking shocked and embarrassed. Lorenzo finally broke free from the crowd and rushed the stage. You cannot. I stepped away from the microphone as he lunged at me. He was angry and off balance, easy to sidestep. His momentum carried him past me and straight into the projection screen, which toppled over with a crash. The room erupted in chaos. People shouting, phones recording, security moving in. In the confusion, I walked calmly to where Brianna stood, frozen near the bar. The apartment is yours until the end of the month, I said quietly. After that, you will need to find other arrangements. Jordan, please. This is what consequences look like, Brianna. Remember that for next time. The story spread by Sunday morning. Someone had live-streamed the party, and the footage of Lorenzo crashing into the projection screen became a meme within hours. But the real damage was happening behind the scenes. The Federal Bureau of Investigation had indeed been investigating King for months, and my evidence package gave them everything they needed for indictments. By Monday, his assets were frozen and his investment firm was under federal scrutiny. Brianna's situation was more complex, but equally devastating. Her employer, Tech Forward Solutions, had a strict ethics policy regarding employee conduct. When the story broke connecting her to a man under federal investigation, Human Resources placed her on administrative leave pending their own investigation. Lisa Grant, her best friend and accomplice, faced similar problems. As Tech Forward's Human Resources Director, she had been feeding Brianna inside information about company policies and upcoming changes. The investigation revealed a pattern of favoritism and policy violations that cost her the promotion she had been expecting. I spent Monday morning in my lawyer's office finalizing divorce papers. Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery still matters when it comes to property division and alimony. With the evidence I had gathered, my attorney was confident we could protect most of my assets. Tuesday, Brianna called. Jordan, we need to talk. Talk to my lawyer, please. 5 minutes. I am at the coffee shop downstairs from your office. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair unwashed, wearing clothes I recognized from college. The polished professional facade was completely gone. I am sorry, she said as soon as I sat down. I know that is not enough, but I needed to say it. Okay, you said it. I made a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. But did you have to destroy everything? My job, my friends, my reputation. I studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse beyond self-pity. You destroyed those things, Brianna. I just made sure people knew about it. Lorenzo said you were vindictive, but I did not believe him. I thought I knew you. Apparently, we did not know each other as well as we thought. She leaned forward, desperate. Is there any way we can work this out? Go to counseling, start over. No, just like that. 6 years of marriage means nothing. It meant everything. That is why this hurts so much. I stood up to leave. But you made your choice, and now you get to live with it. What am I supposed to do now? I cannot find another job with this hanging over me. I cannot even get my friends to return my calls. Figure it out. The same way I had to figure out how to deal with finding my wife in bed with another man. Wednesday brought news that Lorenzo had been arrested at Logan Airport trying to board a flight to the United States Virgin Islands. Apparently, the federal investigation had uncovered not just bribery and fraud, but also a network of accounts in U.S. territories holding money stolen from his investors. The local news picked up the story, focusing on the dramatic engagement party revelation. A reporter called my office asking for an interview, but I declined. The story was already out there. I did not need to add commentary. Thursday, Lisa called. Jordan, I know you probably do not want to hear from me, but I need you to know something. What is that, Lisa? Brianna really did love you. What happened with Lorenzo? It was not planned. He pursued her aggressively, made her feel special, convinced her that you did not appreciate her, and I supported that. I thought she deserved to be happy. I thought maybe you two had grown apart, and this was just... I do not know. I was wrong. Yes, you were. She is talking about leaving Boston, starting over somewhere else. That is probably smart. Do you not care at all about what happens to her? I thought about that question for a long moment. I care that she is safe. I care that she learns from this experience. But I do not care enough to sacrifice my own well-being to fix her mistakes. Friday afternoon, I was in my shop working on a custom railing design when Mrs. Brooks appeared at my office door. Jordan, dear, I wanted to thank you. For what, Mrs. Brooks? For handling this situation with class. My late husband always said the measure of a man is how he responds when wronged. You could have been violent or cruel, but instead you were strategic. I just wanted the truth to come out. The truth has a way of doing that, does it not? But sometimes it needs help. She smiled. I also wanted you to know that your wife moved out this morning. I saw the moving truck. I nodded, surprised by the mix of relief and sadness I felt. She left something for you with the building manager. An envelope. The envelope contained Brianna's wedding ring and a short note. I am sorry for everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday I can forgive myself. I sat in my office for a long time holding the ring and thinking about the woman I had married 6 years ago, the ambitious, funny, passionate person who had supported my dream of starting a business. Somewhere along the way, that person had been replaced by someone I did not recognize. Maybe it was gradual. Maybe it happened all at once. Maybe it did not matter anymore. 3 weeks later, I was having a beer at Sullivan's Pub after work when I spotted familiar faces at a corner table. Lisa and Gina Porter were deep in conversation over martinis. They saw me at the same time I saw them. Lisa looked embarrassed and started to gather her purse, but Gina stood up and walked over to my table. Jordan, we need to talk. Do we? Sit down, Gina. Lisa called from across the room, but her friend ignored her. You destroyed Brianna's life. Are you proud of that? I took a sip of my beer and studied Gina's face. She was angry, righteous, probably a little drunk. I revealed the truth about Brianna's choices. She destroyed her own life. She made a mistake. People make mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting to pick up milk or double booking a dinner reservation. Having a 6-month affair is not a mistake. It is a decision. Multiple decisions. You could have handled it privately. Worked it out between yourselves. Like she handled her relationship with Lorenzo privately. Gina's face flushed red. That is different. Ow. She was unhappy. You were neglecting her, taking her for granted. Lorenzo made her feel alive again. I set down my beer and looked directly into her eyes. Gina, you encouraged her. You and Lisa both. You knew she was married. Knew she was lying to me. And you cheered her on because it made good content for your social drama. That is not. You posted about it. Cryptic little hints about following your heart and choosing happiness. You turned my marriage into entertainment. Lisa finally came over, looking mortified. Gina, stop. Let's just go. No, I want to understand what he has done. Brianna had to leave Boston because of him. She lost everything. She lost everything because she chose to have an affair with a criminal. I said calmly. I did not make Lorenzo steal money from investors. I did not make him bribe city officials. I just made sure people knew who they were really dealing with. You are heartless, Gina spat. I am practical. Brianna wanted excitement. Wanted to feel special. Wanted a man who would shower her with expensive gifts and take her to fancy restaurants. She got exactly what she wanted. The fact that it came with consequences does not make me the villain. Lisa put her hand on Gina's arm. Come on. This is not helping anyone. But Gina was not finished. You know what I think? I think you're threatened by successful men like Lorenzo. You're just a blue-collar guy who got lucky with a small business. Brianna outgrew you. I stood up slowly, and something in my expression made both women take a step back. You want to know what I think, Gina? I think you're jealous. Jealous that even with all her flaws, someone loved Brianna enough to marry her. Jealous that she had something real before she threw it away for stage drama. That is not. I think you encourage her affair because misery loves company and you have never had a relationship last longer than 6 months. I think you are angry at me because I held her accountable for her choices instead of enabling her like you did. Gina's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Lisa tugged at her arm more insistently. And I continued, that deep down you know I am right. You know that what happened to Brianna was justice, not cruelty. You know that actions have consequences, and you are terrified that someday your own choices will catch up with you. I threw 20 on the table and walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear Gina starting to cry and Lisa trying to comfort her. Outside, the evening air felt clean and cool. I walked the 8 blocks to my apartment, thinking about the conversation and realizing something important. I felt free for the first time in months. I was not angry. I was not plotting revenge or nursing hurt feelings. I was just done. The next morning, I called my lawyer and told him to finalize the divorce as quickly as possible. No more delays. No more negotiations. I want to close this chapter of my life and move on. 2 days later, I got a call from an unexpected source. Caleb Lewis, the valet at the Ritz. Mr. Carter, I wanted you to know. Lorenzo King made bail yesterday. Okay, thanks for letting me know. There's something else. He was asking about you. Where you live, where you work, what kind of car you drive. I thought you should be aware. I thanked Caleb and hung up, then called Terrence. We might have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that shows up at your house at 3 in the morning. Want me to come over? No, but keep your phone on. And Terrence, if something happens to me, make sure the police know about this conversation. That evening, I stayed late at the shop, working on projects and waiting. If Lorenzo was going to make a move, I wanted it to be on my turf, with security cameras recording everything. Around 10, I heard the loading dock door rattle again. This time, I was ready. Lorenzo walked in looking like hell. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, his eyes wild with rage and desperation. He had lost weight during his brief incarceration, and the polished confidence was completely gone. You destroyed my life, he snarled. You destroyed your own life. I just documented it. I'm going to prison because of you. You are going to prison because you committed crimes. Multiple felonies, from what I hear. He pulled something from his jacket. A knife. Cheap and ugly. Probably bought at a gas station. I've got nothing left to lose. Sure you do. You could avoid adding assault charges to your existing problems. Shut up. He waved the knife erratically. You think you are so smart, so righteous, but you're just a pathetic loser whose wife got tired of slumming it. I stayed calm, keeping my hands visible, letting the security cameras capture everything. Put the knife down, Lorenzo. This is not going to end well for you. It is not going to end well for you either. He lunged forward, clumsy and telegraphed. I sidestepped and grabbed a wrench from my workbench, bringing it down hard on his wrist. The knife clattered across the concrete floor. Lorenzo screamed and clutched his injured hand. You broke it. Probably. You should have that looked at. I kicked the knife away and picked up my phone. I'm calling 911. You can explain to the police why you thought threatening me with a weapon was a good idea. While we waited for the officers, Lorenzo sat on the floor, crying and cursing. The fight had gone out of him completely. This is all your fault, he whimpered. Everything was perfect until you interfered. Nothing was perfect, Lorenzo. You were stealing money, bribing officials, and destroying marriages. That is not perfect. That is pathetic. The police arrived within 10 minutes, followed by an ambulance for Lorenzo's wrist. Detective Maya Thompson took my statement while the paramedics worked. This is pretty straightforward, she said, reviewing the security footage. Clear case of self-defense. He will be charged with assault with a deadly weapon, probably violating his bail conditions too. Good. You handled this well, Mr. Carter. A lot of people would have escalated the situation. I just want it over with. After everyone left, I sat in my office and called Terrence to let him know what had happened. Then I called my lawyer to document the incident. Finally, I poured myself a scotch and tried to process the fact that it was really, truly finished. 6 months later, I was installing a custom gate at a client's house in Cambridge when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Jordan, this is Brianna. I heard about what happened with Lorenzo. I wanted to make sure you were okay. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. The truth was, I was more than okay. The business was thriving. The publicity from the engagement party had actually brought in new clients who appreciated my direct approach to problem solving. I had started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it felt good to remember what it was like to be with someone who actually wanted to be there. Terrence found me finishing up the gate installation around 4. Looks good, boss. Client is going to love it. Thanks. How is Caleb doing? Good. Got promoted to head valet after testifying in the King trial. Turns out being honest and observant are valuable skills. We loaded the tools back into the truck and headed to the shop. It was a beautiful October afternoon, the kind of day that makes you grateful to be alive and working outdoors. You ever hear from her? Terrence asked as we drove through downtown traffic. Ooh, you know who. She texted today. I deleted it. Good for you. I do not hate her anymore, I said, surprising myself at the admission. I do not love her either, but I do not hate her. That is healthy. I think she was genuinely unhappy in our marriage. I think she felt trapped and made bad choices trying to escape. I think Lorenzo manipulated her, made her feel special and desired. But none of that excuses lying to me for 6 months. None of that justifies the humiliation or the betrayal. She could have asked for a divorce. She could have been honest about her feelings. Instead, she chose deception. We pulled into the shop parking lot as the sun was setting behind the Boston skyline. Another day finished, another small victory in the ongoing project of building a life worth living. That evening, I had dinner with Mrs. Brooks, who had become something of a surrogate grandmother since the divorce. She cooked food that reminded me of my childhood, and I fixed things around her apartment that her arthritic hands could not manage. You seem happy, she observed over dessert. I am happy, or at least I am content. Good. Happiness is overrated anyway. Contentment lasts longer. What do you mean? Happiness depends on circumstances. Contentment comes from knowing who you are and being comfortable with that person. You have learned that lesson. After dinner, I walked home through the city streets, thinking about her words. She was right. I didn't know who I was now in a way I had not before. I was someone who valued loyalty and honesty. Someone who worked hard and treated people fairly. Someone who did not accept betrayal quietly, but did not seek cruelty either. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. Brianna moved to Seattle and found work at a smaller tech company. According to Lisa, who reached out through mutual friends, she was seeing a therapist and trying to rebuild her life. I wished her well, genuinely, but from a distance. Lorenzo was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for fraud, bribery, and the assault on me. His investment firm was liquidated, and the money was returned to his victims. Justice served carefully and completely. Lisa had been demoted, but kept her job after completing ethics training. Gina moved to Los Angeles, chasing influencer dreams that would probably end in disappointment. The social circle that had enabled and encouraged Brianna's affair scattered like leaves in the wind. 3 months after the divorce, I met someone. Her name was Rebecca, and she was a veterinarian who had hired me to build custom kennel systems for her practice. She was smart, funny, and refreshingly direct about what she wanted from life. I did not do drama, she told me on our 3rd date. I have seen too many relationships destroyed by people who think excitement is more important than stability. I could not agree more. Good, because I like you, Jordan Carter, but I will not compete with ghosts or unfinished business. No ghosts, I assured her. No unfinished business. Just a man who has learned the value of honesty. 6 months later, we moved in together. Not because we were afraid of being alone, but because we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. It was a different kind of relationship than I had had with Brianna. Calmer, more mature, built on mutual respect rather than passion and drama. The business continued to grow. We hired 5 new employees and moved to a larger facility. The city contract led to others, and soon we were the go-to shop for high-end custom metalwork in the Boston area. One evening in late spring, Almost 2 years after the engagement party, I found an envelope that had been slipped under the office door. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a note. Jordan, I know this does not fix anything, but I wanted to return the money I spent during our marriage on things that were not for us. The check represents my best estimate of what I wasted on gifts, dinners, and trips with Lorenzo. I do not expect forgiveness, but I needed to try to make amends. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Brianna. I stared at the check for a long time. $50,000 was significant money, enough to buy new equipment or take a real vacation. But it also felt like an anchor to the past, a connection I had worked hard to sever. In the end, I donated the money to a local charity that helped people rebuild their lives after divorce. It seemed like the right thing to do, transforming something born of betrayal into something that could help others heal. Rebecca found me in the office an hour later, still holding the note. Everything okay? I told her about the check and what I decided to do with it. That was generous of you. It felt right. She sat on the edge of my desk and studied my face. Any regrets about how you handled everything? I thought about the question seriously. No, I could have been vindictive. Could have tried to destroy her completely. I could have been passive, could have ignored the betrayal and tried to work things out. Instead, I chose accountability. I made sure actions had consequences. And now, I am exactly where I want to be, with someone who chooses to be here every day, building something real together. She smiled and kissed me softly. Good answer. That night, lying in bed next to someone who loved me by choice rather than obligation, I thought about the journey that had brought me here, the pain of betrayal, the satisfaction of justice, the hard work of rebuilding. All of it had been necessary. All of it had been worth it. I thought about Brianna somewhere in Seattle, hopefully learning to be honest with herself and others. I thought about Lorenzo in prison, paying the price for his crimes. I thought about the friends who had enabled bad choices and the consequences they had faced. But mostly, I thought about the future, about the business Rebecca and I were planning to start together, combining my metalwork skills with her practical knowledge of running a service business, about the house we were looking at in Somerville, with a workshop space and room for the family we might someday have, about the life we were building, one honest choice at a time. The last text I ever received from Brianna came 6 months later. I saw the article about your new business venture. Congratulations. You deserve every success. I showed it to Rebecca, who read it and nodded approvingly. That sounds like growth, she said. Yeah, it does. I deleted the message and blocked the number, not out of anger, but out of recognition that some chapters need to stay closed for new ones to begin. 2 years later, Rebecca and I were married in a small ceremony at the Botanical Gardens. Mrs. Brooks was there, beaming with pride. Terrence was my best man, and Caleb caught the bouquet, much to everyone's amusement. During my toast, I talked about the importance of choosing partners who choose you back every single day, about building relationships on honesty rather than excitement, on respect rather than passion alone. Marriage is not a fairy tale, I said, looking at Rebecca. It is a construction project. Every day you are building something together, and the quality of what you build depends on the materials you use. Use honesty, use respect, use genuine affection, and you will create something that lasts. Use deception, use selfishness, use drama, and eventually the whole structure collapses. The crowd laughed and applauded, but I was serious. I had learned those lessons the hard way, and I was not going to forget them. 5 years after the engagement party that changed everything, I was exactly where I belonged, running a successful business with my wife, living in a house we had bought together, planning for a future built on mutual trust and shared values. The reckoning I'd set in motion had never been about cruelty. It had been about truth. Truth has consequences. Sometimes those consequences are severe. But in the end, truth also sets you free. Free to build something better. Free to love someone who loves you back. Free to be exactly who you are meant to be. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.